In this tutorial, we're going to create a couple more errors, and this next error that we're going to create, you're going to see quite often. And this error is going to be created in our function event listener pair. So one of the types of functions that you might forget is maybe you forget to create some sort of variable inside your function, or argument for your function when you're using a button. So let's just see what happens. It seems to work just fine until I actually try and run it. So take a look. It says argument error, argument count mismatch, expected 0 got 1. So if we take a look at that, what's happening here is with the function that I have right now, it has no arguments, but this mouse event.click actually gets sent to the function as an argument. That's why we have to have that EVT in there, or event in there, when we are running it as a function for a function event listener pair. Now, when we created this function above, which is just a very simple hello world function, that wasn't really required. But we can do the same sort of error here. Let's just say that we have some sort of variable or argument that we're going to create with that function, and then down here we're trying to run the function without a variable. So let's see what error we get there. It says incorrect number of arguments, expected 1. So if I double click on it, you'll see here is where the error is happening. It's taking me to the line, but it says expected 1. So that's where we have to go back and look at the function up here, and you'll see that we do have one argument that's part of it. Now, we don't have to use that argument, so of course, if we save it now, it'll work just fine. So just something, just to be aware of, and that's why we're going through all these errors, just to show you all the things that could possibly happen. Let's take a look at some other functions that we might have. Let's see what happens if we misname our function. Oh, undefined property my button click, so we've seen that one before. So you can see that the 1120 happens lots of different ways. Let's see what happens if we remove a curly bracket. It says extra characters found after the end of a program. So it didn't like that at all. For some reason, that curly bracket missing at the beginning creates some errors. Let's see what happens if we miss one at the end. It says expecting right brace before the end of the program. So that's another one to be aware of. Let's see what happens if we take our quotation marks out of our trace command. Alright, expected right parent before clicked. So, not really sure how that error message is going to really help us out, but it's interesting to note what happens there. Let's see another one that we might be able to do. Let's see if we change mouse event to something different, or add event listener. This one's pretty common to have that misspelled. So let's see what happens there. Okay, there's a good one. 1061, call to an possibly undefined method, add event listener. So if we go down, you'll see it shows us that that is spelled wrong. Let's see what happens if we do mouse event wrong. Access of undefined property mouse event. Since that's blue, it thinks it's supposed to be a variable, but we haven't defined what it is. Let's see what happens if we spell clicked wrong. It says access of undefined property click through a reference of static type class. Who knows, but it means that we've spelled something wrong. Let's see what happens if we take out the comma here. Expecting right parent before my button click. So that's 1084. So when you are making notes, you might notice more than one thing that generates a similar type of error. And sometimes it's good enough for you just to say, hey, this is a syntax error. You're probably missing a semicolon or comma or something. You might not have to be able to, in your comments, you don't have to say every scenario of how you might want to fix it, but just some typical things that you want to do. Now, if you can find any other errors, that'd be great. I know we've generated a whole bunch of different ones, but being able to identify errors and know what they are, know where the compiler errors will take you when you double click on them is a very essential part of learning Flash. So do that document and let me know if you have any questions.